the show. My name's Coach Ryan Palumbo. I am the owner of Conquer Fitness Personal Training right here in Enfield, Connecticut, where we specialize in helping adults in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond get back into amazing shape through our adult strength and conditioning training and our lifestyle and nutrition coaching. I am also owner of the brand new health and wellness and performance supplement shop right here in Enfield, Connecticut called Destination Nutrition. I'm actually sitting here right now, brand new build out, completely beautiful. We carry all the top lines, but mainly guys, today I'm on here to bring a special guest on, someone that I looked up to in the industry for a very long time. This individual has been one of the most influential voices in the bodybuilding and fitness industry for over 30 years. They have been very popular on top magazines like Muscular Development. They've been very active in industry top forums. They are active in their own media channels, as well as this person is the owner of Species Nutrition Supplements. This is a very good friend of mine. This guy actually has, this guy's one of the top coaches in the IFBB, helping out top names like Keem Williams, Kevin Levrone, Evan Centopani. He was a top competitor himself in the placing as high as second place in the 2003 USA's top contender in the NPC Nationals. This guy was one of the original mass monsters of the 90s, coming in at 319 pounds. Guys, I'm introducing no one other than Dave Palumbo. Dave,
what's up, Ryan? How's it going, man?
All right. Dave, man, it's been a while. We have, so for all of our listeners and audience here, Dave actually coached both my wife and myself for about 6 years in the bodybuilding world, right? Took myself from 160 pounds all the way up to 207 pounds on stage. Took summer into winning overall championships. We came a long way, man. We came a long way. So I'm no longer competing at the moment right now. Neither one of us are. We just had our kid. We are fully involved with the businesses right now, but life is still great. Dave, so like the reason for this interview and the reason why I wanted to bring you on is between the gym right now, I've done a really good job of delivering the message on the importance of like proper strength training and nutrition. Where I seem to have failed, and mainly just because of like time and just like how busy we are, is I don't have the capacity to be able to explain to my clients in the community the benefits of all the supplements in the industry. And so what I did is I created this new store here, Destination Nutrition. I wanted to create a completely separate entity so that we could actually bring our clients here, bring the community in here, and actually have the time to sit with each client, going over all the ingredients and all the benefits of every single supplement in here so that we can help them pick the right supplements for their goals specifically. And when I was opening the shop, I knew I had to reach back into my phone here and hit up Dave Palumbo. It's because when I think about the supplement industry or the bodybuilding industry or just the fitness industry at all, like the person I looked up to the most in my entire career, this has been Dave Palumbo. And you've been an expert in the field and have all the knowledge. So I wanted to bring you on here and help us to deliver the message to the community and our clients and everyone that's listening here about this industry. So Dave, I guess to kind of give our viewers and our audience a little background on yourself, what initially inspired you to get into the world of bodybuilding? And more importantly, like what I guess influenced you to like get behind like the details of the science and nutrition with it?
You know, I was always interested in changing how I looked and how I performed. You know, I was always an athlete. In high school, I was a runner with a partial scholarship in college. And I noticed that if you changed, you know, the way your body looked, well, first of all, I studied the way runners look. And I was a long distance runner, but I didn't look like a long distance runner. I looked like a rock climber. I had like I didn't have a lot of muscle, but I had a bigger upper body. I had the, you know, relatively thinner legs, but I always had like adductors and stuff like that. Like you could tell I had genetics probably to put big legs on, but I didn't have big legs. I played soccer in high school. So, and I said, I don't look like a runner. And someone a coach had talked to me and said, you know, you weigh too much. And I said, I don't have any body fat. He's like, you're carrying around muscle that you don't need. It's weight. And so I started like starving off the weight, essentially, you know, restricted diets. And I was running 10 miles a day. And I actually changed the way I looked. And I started looking like a long distance runner. I had the thin legs, because my legs used to always touch my inner thighs, which no runner has. Their legs never touch. And
great in the bodybuilding.
Yeah, I got that, and which you wouldn't think would be a plus, you know, on the cosmetic side, but on the performance side, it's a plus. And I also got my upper body thin where my arms were really thin, and I look like a runner. I look like a long distance runner. And to be honest with you, I started running better because I wasn't carrying around that extra weight. All my times improved, but I took it almost to a little too extreme. I went maybe a little too low because I was about 155 in high school, 100 maybe 60 on a good day, and then I went down to under 140, in college. So for 3 years, I was running cross country and track and all long distance races, and I saw that there was a performance benefit. When I decided in my last year of college, I had gotten into medical school. I wanted to start, weight training again because I was like, I'm not going to run in med. There's no running in medical school. And I said, I'm never going to get a date at 140 pounds, I was really fit. And I didn't really like those skinny girls who are on the running team. So I was like, I got to get in shape. So I started doing what I was in high school. I started working weight training, slowly phased out the running. And I realized that you could really influence how you look as a bodybuilder by what you're eating. And I noticed that the more I ate high protein meals, that I was putting on muscle. And I saw that there was a science to the whole thing. And I didn't really know it yet. I was learning through Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness, and just reading general nutrition articles. But I was also working with a professor at the college who was doing studies on how thyroid hormone influenced muscle growth in chickens. So it was kind of my first foray into hormonal manipulation. At this point, if you would have told me, you got to take steroids to be a bodybuilder, I would have told you you're crazy. I'm like, no one does steroids. I was completely naive. But I did notice that the more I ate food-wise, certain nutrients I took in, my body started responding better. I noticed that, it's funny because I found it many years later that I don't methylate vitamin B12 very well. And so I can't store it, which is a benefit if you methylate it. Methylating it is activating it. But I didn't know this obviously when I was 20 years old. But I did notice that they used to have these little nasal shots of B12 you could buy in the health food store. You'd squirt this little gel up your nose, and your body would absorb the B12 through the nasal membranes, which is kind of almost like injecting it, Yeah. I noticed I started growing better, and I started having more energy, and I noticed on blood work, my red blood cells went up, and I'm like, holy mackerel. And I didn't even know why. I knew that B12 was necessary for the production of red blood cells because, if you didn't have enough B12, you were anemic. And I saw that my energy levels were going up. But I didn't, so I was fascinated by the fact that vitamins, nutrients, were really necessary. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, look, all the chemical reactions in our body run on vitamins and minerals and trace metals as cofactors. So if you're working out, 2 hours a day, whether it's running or whether it's working out with weights, you're engaging in so many more chemical reactions than you would if you would not work out, right? Because you're breaking down muscle mass, you're burning, oxidizing fatty acids, you're oxidizing, or not oxidizing, but you're burning glucose, to produce energy and ATP, and you're synthesizing, muscle. So I'm like, there's got to be a greater need for the athlete to take in vitamins, minerals, and trace metals than there is the regular person. And so, they have something called the, what is it called? The daily requirements. They come up with these arbitrary numbers of what.
Yeah, everything's based off like a 2,000 calorie diet, right?
No, it's the minimum. They think the minimum daily requirements that you need in vitamin C, vitamin B, all these different vitamins, and they base it on an old lady laying in a hospital bed. What's the minimum she needs so she doesn't have any side effects? Like get scurvy from not having enough vitamin C and stuff. So they're very minimal amounts. So everyone thinks if they take a 1-a-day vitamin that I got all the daily requirements in because it says I got 100% of everything that I need. Well, yeah, that's if you're laying in a hospital bed all day long and you're 90 years old. So I started researching what vitamins and minerals are necessary, and I started making lists of everything. And I had like 40 different vitamin bottles on my countertop, and I realized that I got to put this stuff together. This stuff's got to be put together in a more convenient way to do it because no one's going to buy 25 bottles of vitamins and take them every day. It's nuts. And back in the 80s and 90s, people did that. You would see countertops with 1 million vitamin bottles of every supplement you could imagine because no one was putting them together. And the companies that were putting them together, they were in very small, what we call pixie dust dosages, meaning that it was in there, but it really wasn't in there in a dosage that was doing anything. So, when I finally started to master the idea of how many grams, the macros, meaning protein, fat, carbs that you needed per day, and then the micros, which were the, vitamins, minerals, trace metals, and antioxidants. Once I figured out what the body really needed, an athlete needed, not a hospital, bedridden woman, I started seeing incredible improvements in my physique and muscle gains and fat loss that it was like a miracle almost. And this is before I ever even touched an anabolic steroid. So there was this power in food, this power in minerals, vitamins, trace metals. You have to just know what your body needs. And so, obviously, flash forward 30 years, I have my Species Nutrition, line of products. I did all the hard work for you guys already. I put everything in there in the right dosages that everyone needs, so you don't have to think about what you really need. 99% of everything you need is in the Species line of products: demineralize, omega-lize, and then our fiber product, Fiberlize. But I mean, that was 30 years of work, playing with dosages and amounts and quantities to get that ideal amount. But people don't understand. They think that's optional. And you see, and you have a store, so you probably see this. People come in and they'll buy a pre-workout before they buy a multivitamin mineral.
Yeah.
They'll buy an amino acid product before they buy a fiber supplement or an essential fatty acid supplement. Meanwhile, the stuff I'm mentioning are things that are absolutely necessary for you to get muscle gains and burn fat, and people don't even do that.
And so that's actually one of the questions that's like specifically one of the questions I have, right? Like bodybuilding, like we'll take it as like bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is like a young man's sport, right? And so and I learned this very early on with you, right? But nowadays, most of these people that I see coming in here, whether it's here or even people I talk to at the gym, they want the highest in pre-workout. They want the SARMs. They want the peptides. They want the next latest thing in gear, right? I don't ever hear anyone talking about their multivitamin or their Megalize or their Fiberlize, right? So one of the big things that I want to get out to the public is, I'm so thankful that I had you in my corner at the time, right? Is like, because one thing that we first started, like your first protocol you sent me was a mile long list of all health products. And I was like, how the hell is this going to help me get there? So, I mean, I know now, but most people don't know. So like, Dave, how is a multivitamin, a V mineralize, an omega-lize, and a fiber, how is that going to help a bodybuilder promote muscle growth? Or how's that going to help the adult who is going from a sedentary lifestyle to getting into the gym? How's that going to help promote muscle growth for them and help promote longer life? How's it going to set them up for success?
I'm going to segue away, and then I'm going to come back to that answer in a second. So I went to Dubai in 1996. This is before Dubai was built up. There was one hotel there, and one of the gym owners took me to his gym. It was a pretty hardcore gym, nothing like you see today. And I did a little seminar there. I was 300 pounds or something like that. I was huge. I was dieting for the USA Championships at the time. And a kid came in. He had the worst case of acne I've ever seen. And he was pretty skinny too. He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't grow. I said, well, what are you doing? He's like, I take 25 Dianabol per day. I said, 25 5-milligram Dianabol? I said, I never heard of anyone doing that many. I said, and obviously you can see by the acne on his face that he wasn't lying, but he was skinny. I said, well, how much protein are you eating a day? He's like, I don't know. He wasn't even eating any protein. He was eating like the worst diet of all time. Like he was eating like pasta and rice and potatoes. And maybe he was getting maybe he said 40 grams of protein a day. He wasn't taking any vitamins or anything like that. He knew nothing about I said, you know that you can't build muscle without eating protein, because protein is like the clay that builds the muscle on your body. And he's like, really? And I said, I wrote a little diet for him, gave it to him. And his name, you might know him today. His name is Big Rammy. No, just kidding. No, but this kid, I'm sure, made a lot of improvements. He just thought it was the drugs, So anabolic steroids are drivers of protein synthesis. But if you don't give the body the raw materials that the body needs to build the muscle, assuming you're going to the gym and stimulating the muscle, breaking it down, your body can't make muscle out of air, just like a sculptor can't make a sculpture out of air. And if you don't give him clay, you can't do it. So you have to give your body what it needs: protein, mostly, and it has to be eaten throughout the day because there's no storage facility for protein. You have to give the body a certain amount of essential fatty acids, because they're called essential because your body can't make them. They need them for building muscle, making hormones, and all kinds of stuff like that. And then all the chemical reactions that will oxidize, burn fat, or build muscle, protein synthesis reactions, as I mentioned earlier, require vitamins, minerals, and trace metals as cofactors in those chemical reactions. So if you don't give your body enough of the stuff and you run out of it, you just don't build muscle. And it's not that you're not eating enough protein. It's not that you're not training hard. It's that you just don't have the ingredients. It's like trying to make spaghetti sauce without having any tomatoes around. You can't do it. So the chemical reactions require the vitamins, minerals, and trace metals, and it's just as important to the process as is the protein and the training. So that's why when I give a program to someone, like when you first came to me, it's like I don't tell people to do things that are not necessary. So everything I'm telling people to do is going to be contributing to the process of building muscle, burning fat, and improving the way you look. So even if Mr. Jones, who's 60 years old, comes in and says, I just started weight training, he comes into your store, I want, can you help me out? How do I put on a little bit of muscle and burn some fat? Well, number one, you got to eat protein, 4 or 5 times a day, 6 times a day, depending on how many hours you're awake. Okay, you need a little bit of fat in there. You need some carbs probably for energy, assuming you're not a fat overweight guy. And, you're going to need some basic, vitamin, minerals, trace metal products. You're going to need an essential fatty acid supplement. And you're probably going to need a fiber supplement too, because you're not eating any, you're eating very little carbs, or you're not eating enough natural fibers in your day. And if you do those 3 supplements, which I always call the must-have supplements, you're pretty much set, and that's the process. It's not that hard. Once you put those 3 supplements in with the right diet and the training program, where you're not training every single day, you're getting 4 to 5 days a week of weight training, you see progress. And you can give an 80-year-old guy or an 80-year-old woman the same program, obviously modifying the macros and stuff like that. And they're going to make progress too. It's a formula that they don't teach you in school, but once you get the formula down, it's very easy and simple.
And so I love everything you're saying. Actually, so Summer wasn't able to be here right now, but I told her, I said, when I said this interview, I was like, I could probably do this whole interview for Dave by myself, because I know I've watched so much of your content.
Sounds coming out of my mouth though, yeah, because I've been saying it for so many years. Yeah.
But what I was saying to her was like, what initially drew me to you, and like what initially like turned me on to like being addicted to watching all of Dave Palumbo's videos, and ultimately calling you up, was the fact that there's so many like self-proclaimed gurus out there. There's so many self-proclaimed like Instagram influencers that are now coaches, and every single one of these guys have all these crazy kookamani, super scientific, super detailed protocols that if anyone's watching it, one, it's like, it's a great sales pitch, because you make yourself sound so smart and elevated above everyone else that like, I need to get this guy's information. But really what ends up happening is like, you put so much pressure on these individuals that they need to do everything so meticulous and
precisely,
so, and everything needs to be so just regimented. Where when I was listening to you, it's like, man, like Dave just makes this stuff sound so simple. Like it's very basic stuff. It's simple stuff, but it's just the repeated action of doing it day after day after day after day. And that's the biggest difference I see between like Dave Palumbo and all the other, not bigger names, but big names in the industry. It's over convoluted.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard, Brian. But you know what the problem is? People want to make themselves feel important, because they think that if they're not important in the process, because it's so complicated, the process, that people won't pay them and hire them. But that's not the truth, because it's not the program you're giving someone that makes you special. It's how you manipulate the program as a coach. And that takes, number one, education, but number two, a lot of experience. So a lot of coaches are very experienced. They've been doing it for a long time. They don't necessarily have the greatest knowledge base, but intuitively they're good because they've been doing it for so long. That's why when you get a coach who can combine the knowledge with the experience, that's the best of both worlds. But a lot of people don't want to know that it's easy. Okay, they want to think it's hard, and so they'll go to the person who sells them on the fact that it's hard, because and they'll charge more money for that. That's just not me. My whole life is like, I want everything to be as simple as possible. I'm about teaching people the right way to do things, but explaining it in such a simple way that they're like, oh, anyone could do this. It doesn't mean that the people will still be able to do their own diet. They're going to still hire me. I have I have more clients now than I did 30 years ago. So I'm obviously doing something right. But the bottom line is that I'm not going to sell people on mysticism and making it seem like the process is so. It's like what they did back in the in the Middle Ages, they would make it seem as though people couldn't read the Bible on their own. You had to go to the church because the church they were smarter and they could interpret the Bible for you. You can't, so they didn't even have it you couldn't even have it in your native language. It was only in Aramaic or Latin. And so the priest had to read it to you. Yeah, and then it got to a point where they said, you know what, fuck this. You know what, we're going to translate these Bibles into all the languages of people so people can read it themselves, And that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm like, everyone should be able to do this. It's not rocket science. It's always good to have a second set of eyes who can give you feedback into what you're doing and make necessary tweaks to your program, because that's where the coaching comes in.
Yeah. And so you do a lot of bodybuilding. You also do a lot of like lifestyle coaching as well, right?
Anyone who comes to me, I'll work with anyone. You know what? I like the variation too, because it mixes it up a little bit. Sometimes I have some just regular people who just want to do transformations. I have people who compete at the highest level. I have people who are just starting. I actually enjoy working with the young guys that are just starting, or the young girls that are just starting out, because they're like a blank slate, and you can you can train them the right way. So just like I trained you the right way. So this way, when they get a little older and whether they decide to be coaches on their own or continue, it's like their mind is thinking in the right direction. Right? I don't have to break bad habits with them.
Yeah. So what are some of like the most common misconceptions you typically see when people come to you, whether they're either brand new or whether they've come from another coach? Right. They come to you asking like, "Hey, what am I doing wrong? Things are just not for me."
This is a lot of. I see a lot of like this. The women, probably the worst mistakes is some of these coaches put the women on drugs that they should not be taking, or they're feeding them too many carbs. Because a lot of coaches think that, all right, if I feed a guy 300 grams of carbs a day in the off season, then I'll just feed the woman half of that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times 150 grams of carbs for a woman in her diet is going to get her fat. So women don't need that many carbs. They really don't. I always tell people, and you've heard me say this a zillion times, carbs are just a fuel source. There's no advantage. They don't build muscle. They're just necessary for fuel. So you need some fuel, but you don't need, if you take in too much fuel, your body stores the excess as fat. So you got to be careful, especially with women. They tend to get fat a little bit more easily than men do in the off season. So, and that's a big misconception. Feeding women too much, maybe giving them too many drugs. With men, I find that a lot of times that their diet is not properly balanced. They don't eat enough essential fatty acids because maybe the coach doesn't know anything about essential fatty acids, or they're not taking in enough vitamins and nutrients. They're not taking a fiber supplement, and a lot of them are backed up. And they're not going. Women, probably every woman over 30 years old is constipated. I can't tell you how many women cannot go to the bathroom, because as you get older, your colon gets weaker if you're not working it. And it's not like you can go to the gym and give it a workout. You have to, fiber is what works your colon. Fiber is also what fortifies the good bacteria that live in the colon and feed them. So you got to take a good fiber supplement. There's not many on the market. Most people don't take any fiber. And when I put them on Fiberlize, it like changes their life. So these are just little tweaks here and there, and then, once again, drugs too. A lot of people use fake drugs. A lot of people are using too many drugs. A lot of people are using the wrong drugs, especially women. So there's innumerable mistakes. I think what a lot of people get when at least after they're done coaching with you or while they're coaching with you, what they'll tell people is that Dave will answer all my questions all the time. He's always available to answer questions. He never says, just do it because I tell you to do it. And, everything has a scientific answer. He's not just making stuff up out of his head. And that's, you know what? I would expect that if I had a coach too. I want to be able to ask you questions why you're telling me to drink this bottle of water, or why you're telling me to take these vitamins. And if you can tell me that and explain the science, then I'm happy, Yeah. So
that's what a coach is. Like, we're hiring you because you are obviously smarter than this. You know all the intricacies. So
to educate you, right?
Yeah, you want to educate. You don't want to just be just falling for no reason, right? But like, to take it back for a second to the Fiberlize, right? So I think you've probably seen some invoices, right? Fiberlize is my number one selling product at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I can count on one hand how many days that Summer and I have gone without fiber, and I can tell you how angry we get on those days that we forget about it, right? But I just don't think enough people understand like the importance of fiber. So we take the fiber, right? Your fiber, was it 9 grams? 9 grams total. You have psyllium husk-base. It's both soluble and insoluble, right? Can you explain to us the differences and the benefits of having both that soluble and insoluble fiber source in that drink?
Yeah. Soluble fiber is fiber that absorbs water. So if you think of oatmeal, when you put water into oatmeal, it draws it in almost like a sponge. So fiber can absorb, soluble fiber can absorb water. Insoluble fiber doesn't absorb water. So that, imagine a lettuce leaf laying in a bowl of water. It's just going to kind of float. It doesn't absorb the water. So you do need both types of fiber. The insoluble fiber, like the lettuce and those those type of fibers, are good for roughage in the colon. It's good because it keeps things from getting all mushy and like clay-like. It kind of bulks up the stool a little bit, it moves stuff through. But you don't need a lot. You don't need a ton of that. What you really need is the soluble fiber. And the reason why you need the soluble fiber is because lining the inside of our small intestines and our colon is a layer, or a pretty thick layer too, of bacteria. We call that the probiotic, or the good bacteria that line the intestinal tract. And these bacteria almost act like little miniature guards. They guard the wall of the digestive tract from any kind of pathogens, bacteria, mold, any kind of shit from getting into the body that shouldn't get in there. And when that layer of bacteria breaks down, okay, it's called leaky gut. So there's basically holes in the defense system, so to speak, and sometimes junk can get in there, and you get toxin, you get brain fog, and all kinds of weird shit happens to you. So you don't want that to happen. Soluble fiber is what these bacteria eat for food, and they don't eat it; they ferment it. Okay, and it's a very good food source for you. So you're actually, when you take a soluble fiber supplement, you're feeding the gut bacteria. Now, there's different types of soluble fiber. The most potent on a gram for gram basis is psyllium. Okay, we don't eat psyllium in our diet, but we can take it as a supplement. To give you an idea of how strong psyllium is, if you compare it, 1 gram of psyllium, okay, to oat bran, which is the highest naturally occurring source of soluble fiber in the food supply,
8 times.
1 gram of psyllium equals 8 grams of oat bran. And if you're dieting, you're not going to be eating tons and tons of oat bran during the day, because there's a lot of carbs associated with that. It's carbs that you could actually absorb too. So you're better off taking a concentrated source of soluble fiber. Psyllium is the best option. When we talk about psyllium, though, then there's different grades of psyllium, and they grade it by how much water the psyllium can absorb, and they call that swell rate. So the more you can absorb, more fluid that the psyllium can absorb on a gram for gram basis, the higher the swell rate. We use at Species Nutrition the highest swell rate psyllium. Now, the company I buy it from thinks I'm crazy, because he said it's double the price of the next grade of swell rate psyllium. And I say the reason I do that is because I want people to know that I have the best product out there, and I want it to work the most potently. So in other words, you could take the least amount of fiber per space or per volume and get the most bang out of it. You know what I mean? So you take 1 scoop of fiber lyes twice a day, and you're getting, probably the equivalent of like 4 servings of Metamucil a day, if not more. Yeah. Because it's just a better quality product. So we combine this high swell rate psyllium with a little corn bran. We used to do wheat bran, but wheat bran, a lot of people are gluten intolerant, so they can't do wheat. So we switched to corn bran about 8 years ago. And
I remember that. The color change, I texted you.
We have a nice flavoring system in there, so it tastes pretty good. And people love it. It tastes good. I usually mix it and gulp it down. Some people mix it and put it in the refrigerator, and it turns to Jell-O. Some people put it in the freezer. They eat it like ices. Doesn't matter however you do it. But if you get down to 2 servings a day, it's going to change your life. Because number one, you're going to feed those gut bacteria, okay? And you're going to fortify that protective sheath you have inside your intestinal tract. You're going to lower your LDL cholesterol, because it binds LDL cholesterol salts, pulls it out of the body. Okay, you're going to make the colon work. And when we make the colon work, what happens? It becomes more muscular. When it becomes more muscular, it moves waste more efficiently through its tract. And you don't get constipation. You don't get stagnation. And when you don't get stagnation, guess what happens? You don't get colon cancer. Colon cancer happens because you have stagnation in the gut, and especially specifically the colon. And what happens is the immune cells there can't function well, because it becomes a very acidic environment, because it's the feces is sitting there too long. It's not moving through, and so the immune system gets sluggish there. And then we're always producing cancer cells in our body, and then these cells start to grow out of control, and eventually you can get colon cancer from them. So you'll never get colon cancer if you use a fiber supplement. Matter of fact, I went and I've told the story before, for my first and only colonoscopy at 52 years old. The guy who did it said, "I've never seen such a clean colon. What do you do?" I told him I'd make a fiber supplement. Bring me a case of it. He said, because the stuff works. So that's I got validation from a GI doctor on that.
So by the way, it sounds like you're going to increase insulin sensitivity. You're going to fortify the walls of your digestive tract. You're going to clear all the toxins out. You're going to strengthen your colon. And imagine if you're strengthening your colon, you're probably going to reduce your risk of hemorrhoids as well. Right.
Well, yeah. That's another thing. If you don't, when you go to the bathroom on Fiberlize, it's effortless. You're not straining. You're not going to get hemorrhoids. If you have hemorrhoids, they're going to heal, and you're not going to have to deal with them. And you made another point I'm glad you brought up. When the gut bacteria ferment soluble fiber, they produce short chain and medium chain fats that go into the bloodstream, and they go to the liver, and they tell the liver, stop releasing glucose into the bloodstream. What's the advantage of that? Well, if you have less glucose being pumped into the bloodstream from the liver from stored glycogen, your insulin levels will be lower. And if you're trying to burn fat, lower insulin equals better fat burning. So yeah, there's definitely there's a fat loss effect from it as well.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to fat in a second. I just want to kind of piggyback what you're saying earlier about the strength of the colon. So when I first took it, and nothing against you, you didn't warn me, but this stuff is powerful. This stuff is powerful. Yeah. So I went straight in from never taking it to taking 1 scoop in the morning, 1 scoop at night. And about 3 days in, I was like, dude, my stomach feels so big and so rock hard. I texted like, Dave, what's going on? This is working. This is the opposite effect. And you're like, oh, it's really powerful. You need to take a half a scoop. And so when I sell this, which I sell all the time, I always recommend everybody to hey, start off. It's a small scoop in there. Start off by taking a third of a scoop for a week. Take a half scoop the next week. After that, I always say assess your tolerance.
It's funny that you tell that story because Fuad Abiyad's always talking about Fiberlize on his podcast, and all the guys use it, and he never uses it. He's like, I can't do anytime I use a fiber supplement, I get cramps. So I contacted him. I said, hey, Fuad, I'm going to send you some Fiberlize, but I think what your problem is you have a very weak colon. So he's like, I have a weak colon. I said, you have a weak colon. So I said, this is what you do. You're going to start with a half a serving for a week, once a day. Build up to a half serving twice a day after a week, just like you said, and then go to your full servings. And he did it. And he said, he goes, I got to admit, you were right. He goes, you were 100% right. And now I love it. It's the greatest thing. So yeah, you got to build up, because think about it. Imagine you never worked out a day in your life and you went into the gym and you did 52 sets of bicep curls. You wouldn't be able to lift your arm up the next day. So you got to start slow and build that musculature of the colon up slowly.
So back to the fat thing, right? The 90s did a fantastic job with marketing on all fat-free products. They scared all of America saying fat was bad for you. Fat's going to make you fat, right? We know today, right? They're called essential fatty acids because essential meaning the body needs them in order to survive, right? So you make a terrific product that I take every day with my wife here, Omega Lies. Let's talk the bodybuilding community, tell the general population, why are fats so important for us? Why are the omega-3s, 6s, 7s, and 9? What do they do for us?
Well, first of all, the omega-9s are not essential. The omega-9s are known as the monounsaturated fatty acids. Those are the extra virgin olive oil, macadamia oil, avocado oil. They're very heart healthy. They're very good for you. They burn cleanly. They're excellent energy fats, or fats you can use for fuel, and they have good health benefits. But they're really not essential in the sense that if you don't take them in, you're going to be you're missing something. The class of essential fatty acids are the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and there's two categories of those. There's omega-3s and omega-6s. Most people know the omega-6s because we get too much of that in our diet, and that's called one of those omega-6. There's two omega-6 intermediates, and there's two omega-3 intermediates. One of the omega-6 ones is known as arachidonic acid. So we see a lot of those in chicken, beef, anything that's animal derived that's derived by animals that eat the wrong foods. So if we feed the cows corn in this country, we feed the chickens corn, and they produce way too much of this, what we call pro-inflammatory, causing inflammation, omega-6 fatty acids. So we want some in our diet, especially as bodybuilders, but we don't want too much of it. Okay, that's why for people who don't eat any animal products, sometimes it's hard to grow, because then you almost have too little inflammation. See, it's all about balance. But what most of us don't get enough of is the omega-3 intermediates, the EPA, DHA. And back in the 90s, Bill Phillips was a big advocator of taking flaxseed, because flaxseed has a very high amount of omega-3 fatty acids in it, specifically the parent compound, which is known as alpha-linolenic acid. The problem is that humans, unlike cows and other animals, we don't convert the alpha linolenic acid to usable form into the EPA and DHA, which is what we need in our diet. So if you're a human, you have to take supplemental forms of animal-derived omega-3 fats. So if you take fish oil or krill oil, or if you eat, grass-raised beef or omega-3 eggs from chickens that are eating flaxseed rather than corn, you're going to get a source of this, these EPA DHA. It's much the highest, or most easiest way to get those would be to get it from fish oil. And it has to be wild caught fish oil. It can't be farm-raised fish oil. And so in Omega-Lyze, I put fish oil in 3,000 milligrams of fish oil in there per serving. And then when we go back to the omega-6s, because we get enough arachidonic acid in our diet already, we put the other essential omega-6 intermediate known as gamma linolenic acid, or GLA, in there. And that can be found in evening primrose oil or borage oil. We happen to use primrose oil as the source. And it was funny because when I went to my manufacturer, I said, I want you to make me an essential fatty acid supplement. I want 3 grams of fish oil, 2,600 milligrams of evening primrose oil. And he's like, no one combines animal oils with plant oils. They do plant with plant. I said, well, why? He's like, just no one does it. I said, well, I'm doing it. I said, is that a problem? Are you going to have a problem doing it? He goes, no, I just don't do it for it. I said, good. Well, I'll be the only one who does it the right way. So I think one of the few people who do fish oil combined with evening primrose oil. So you don't have to buy 2 separate bottles. It's all in one. We even put some omega-7 palmitoleic acid in there, which is actually an insulin sensitizer, and it reduces total body inflammation a little bit. And so we have probably, I can feel very confident saying I have the most complete essential fatty acid supplement on the market in Omega-Lyze.
Yeah. And so also, what role does like Omega-Lyze play with like building muscle, right? Like just for like, let's do over the years, right? Fat sources, like the cell wall of our muscle cells are made all from fat, correct?
Okay. Well, first of all, plants have cell walls. Humans don't have. Animals don't have cell walls. We have cell membranes. And the difference is that the cell membrane is made of these fluid fats that move around like this, very fluidly. If you don't give your body the raw materials to make these cell membranes, once you break down muscle in the gym, then it will limit the body's ability to heal and build muscle tissue. So you could eat tons and tons of protein, but if you're not getting enough fats, specifically essential fatty acids, you can't repair muscle adequately. Now, a lot of people, this is what happened in the 90s. When I was at my biggest, I realized that I wasn't growing until I hit this 550, 600 grams of protein, almost double my body weight of protein. It was unbelievable how much protein I had to eat to put muscle on. I'm like, something's not right here. I said, you start feeling a little toxic when you're eating that much protein. It's hard to digest that much protein every single day. And, we've seen Kai Green eat 800 grams of protein a day. And the question is, why would a bodybuilder eat that much protein every day when it just doesn't seem like you should have to do that? Well, it's because he's not growing. So he keeps adding more and more and more. And then all of a sudden he sees himself growing. The reason is because there's a little bit of fat in everything you eat protein-wise, right? If you eat red meat, you're getting fat. If you eat fish, you're getting fat in there. But it's not a lot. It's a small amount, because most of us, we trim all our meats and we eat chicken breasts that have almost no fat in them. Yeah. So to get enough fat without directly eating fat, you have to get it indirectly from the protein sources. So we were overeating protein in the 90s because no one knew about fats. Once I discovered fats and started to explain to people, I realized I was able to cut my fats back by, instead of 600 grams a day, I was eating 400 grams a day of protein. And now I was specifically targeting and eating 150, 200 grams of fat per day. And all of a sudden I was growing again. I wasn't getting as distended in the stomach. I felt like I was assimilating and processing my food better. And I actually looked better too. And my blood work was better. So we were doing something that was stupid because the government had bamboozled us into thinking that if you eat fat, you're going to get heart disease. And so no one ate fat. People thought it wasn't necessary,
Yeah. And this is a story that I would not want my clients over at the gym to hear, but it's a story that the bodybuilding community really respects. But it's the McDonald's theories where you found out the fats, right?
Right. I was eating a zero fat diet. I told the story before, and I for months and months and months, maybe a year or so, and I was stagnant. I couldn't grow, And I just started really taking anabolics at that time, like some mild cycles. And one day we all went out. They're like, let's go to McDonald's. I'm like, and I hadn't eaten McDonald's in a very long time because when I was running, I was on such a restrictive diet. I kind of cut that out of my regimen. And they're like, come on, let's just go get some burgers and fries. I'm like, fine, whatever. I haven't had it in 5 years. So I went and I ate it. And like I told people, I looked like the Incredible Hulk transforming as I was eating this food. The next day, I looked like I gained about 5 pounds of muscle. And we went back to McDonald's 3 more days in a row, and I think I put 10 pounds of muscle on in that week. And I realized, wait a minute, something's going on here. What's different about what I'm doing? And I realized the only thing different was that I was eating fat in my diet, where I was eating none before. And then I realized, wait a second, here I am. I went to 4 years of college as a biology major, 3 years of medical school, and I'm trying to grow muscle without eating any fat, knowing that that fat's necessary to build muscle. And it was idiotic, but it was like one of those aha moments I had. And so I started then researching fats, different types of fats, and I started adding them to my diet and incorporating nuts and avocados. And all of a sudden it was like, and whole eggs, it was like my body exploded with muscle growth after that.
Yeah. I mean, same. You should probably get a sponsorship from McDonald's for the amount of bodybuilders you probably have going there. I know.
I don't recommend getting all your fats from McDonald's, but it was an experiment that definitely changed the way I thought about things. You know?
Yeah. I know it was pretty tasty when you had me doing it 6 times a week back in the day. So
that's true. Well, it's great because if you're dieting someone for a show and their body's, the metabolism is cranking too fast, it's a great thing to throw in there one meal a day, and it kind of will keep you fuller, and it kind of slows the metabolism down a little bit. So I use McDonald's. It's a kind of a joke now, but I use it as a tool as a coach now. And I think a lot of other people use it as well because they realize that it definitely has a filling out effect on the body, especially when your metabolism is cranking too fast and you throw that McDonald's meal in with all that fat and grease and sodium and everything like that. It just has a very good effect on a lean body,
Yeah. So again, kind of segueing from the fat source here, right? A lot of the clients we get at the gym and a lot of clients that you get for yourself for dieting purposes are getting ready for prep, right? And so the idea of prepping for a show or when people come to me and say, hey, I want to lose weight, they want to lose body fat, right?
Yeah.
The problem with in the bodybuilding world is when we're in the middle of prep, we're in the trenches, you've had me doing 2.5 hours of cardio a day, right? And so our CNS system is constantly being spiked. You're training in the gym, you're doing cardio in the morning, you're training in the gym, you're doing cardio at night and the evening again, right? So we're constantly tapping into the CNS system. And the next thing we do is we pop another thermogenic or another kind of high stim fat burner. So what was your theory and what was your idea behind the lipolyze and somolyze?
I just felt like that, first of all, a lot of people, will drink coffee when they're dieting, right? Because to help them wake up and get through, work and stay focused. And I felt that, that people, because I was victim to this too. When I would diet, I would drink so many cups of coffee that it wasn't even doing anything. It just would make me almost nauseous after a while. And I felt stressed out of my mind. I would actually lay in bed at night, and it wasn't that I was stimulated from the coffee, but my nervous system was like traumatized almost. So I said after that one prep where I did a lot of caffeine, and remember there was no pre-workouts then. It was just drinking coffee essentially. I said I'm going to do no coffee. I'm just going to use like 1 or 2 cups a day, just like before my workout, maybe before cardio, to get me through. And you know what? I felt a lot better. And I said, you know what? All the stimulants are, yes, they're waking you up and allowing you to get through your workout, but what they're doing is they're stressing out the body. So they're raising cortisol levels, which we know makes you hold water. We know it causes muscle breakdown. It raises blood sugar. We also know that it raises anxiety in the body, especially for a lot of people who have anxiety disorders. It can raise blood pressure. It raises heart rate. It's just they're not good for you. So I said, rather than create a fat burner that's just based on over revving the engine, so to speak. Imagine if you just sat in your car and you stepped on the gas while you're in drive. While you're in park, you'd fucking burn the motor out eventually from doing that. You'd burn a lot of gas doing that, but it's just not good for the car. So rather than do that, I would find other ways to burn fat using, indirect methods of tricking the body into burning calories, suppressing appetite a little bit, making your leptin levels work better in your body with leptin sensitizers. And that's where Lipolyze came in. And then I said, I might as well make a sister product because no one sleeps at night, especially while they're dieting. And so I added GABA and melatonin for sleep purposes. GABA kind of acts almost like Valium. It kind of relaxes your body. You fall asleep more easily. Melatonin keeps you in a deeper, better quality of sleep at night. And so I made this sister, daytime and nighttime fat burner Lipolyze and Somalize with no stimulants, because a lot of people, especially people who are a little older, who have high blood pressure, they can't take stimulant-based fat burners. If you want to do stimulants, drink coffee or take a pre-workout, but you don't need it again in your fat burner. And I think a lot of people come out with fat burners that don't really burn fat; they're just high-dose stimulants. So you're paying them for basically a high caffeinated cup of coffee in a capsule. And you don't need to do that. You're wasting your money. You might as well just drink coffee at that point or do a pre-workout. So I wanted to make it something different, and they're popular because people can take them. They can take them before they go to bed. They do burn fat. People get warm from them, but they don't get stimulated. It doesn't raise blood pressure. It doesn't raise your heart rate. It doesn't cause anxiety, and they work really well because of that.
Super easy to take too. Like I think every time I start some on Lipolyze, I just have them start off with one pill 3 times a day, and if the effect starts slowing down, which eventually will for everybody, I just add one. I never go over five pills a day. If I go over 6, it'll be for adding in the Somalize stuff. And both myself and Summer, we used it every prep with you guys. We always got down to single-digit body fat percentages. So
you guys both look great. Yeah.
Dave, the last one that and not a knock against you at all, but that can seem controversial when I'm trying to talk to women and explain it to them is the Testalize product. Right. So if you look at that initially, you think it's going to be like a testosterone booster, but from what you've explained, right, over and over again, this is like a testosterone or a hormone optimizer. Can you kind of explain quickly how this works?
Right. Well, everyone had a testosterone boosting product out, and I said to myself, how could you really, really boost testosterone? I mean, if you took drugs, you can inject HCG into a man, and that would stimulate his testicles to directly, produce more testosterone. But you can't there's nothing you can do that's non-hormonal that's going to do that, in a natural person, or this person's not taking hormones. So I said, well, why would your testosterone drop to begin with? We have to look at it. Well, testosterone, when it's produced in the male body, when you're 18 or when you're 85, a certain percentage of that testosterone can convert to other stuff. It can convert to estrogen, that's known as aromatizing, or it can convert via the 5-alpha reductase enzyme into DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. Now, in little boys, DHT is important in that conversion because it's what's responsible for creating their secondary sex characteristics: thickened jaw, deeper voice, la-da-da-da-da. But when you've already been matured already and you've already gone through puberty, you don't want too much DHT because it can cause prostate enlargement, it can cause acne, it can cause hair thinning, prostate enlargement. So if your testosterone is converting more and more as you get older to DHT and estrogen, and you have less testosterone around, then it's not that you're not producing enough testosterone, it's just not staying as testosterone. So I said, let's use some natural, herbal manipulation to keep the testosterone as testosterone. That's where, so I use a very high potency saw palmetto extract. It's very hard to find, and it gets harder and harder as time goes on. And it blocks the conversion of testosterone into DHT. Not to the degree of like a prescription drug like finasteride, but it blunts its production so that you're not going to have any sex drive issues with this. You're not going to notice any side effects, but it will improve, your testosterone levels. And what I found is another great aspect of it was people who were losing hair or thinning hair, men and women, were noticing their hair thickening because a lot of people are very sensitive to DHT, and DHT can cause hair thinning in men and women. Likewise, what was happening was I was giving it to teenagers who were breaking out. Because when I was a teenager, I used to break out with acne all the time, and no one told us why. They said, well, we don't really know. Just rub this cream on that won't work. But the reason why you break out is because your DHT levels are too high, and you happen to be sensitive to DHT. So if you can limit that, I'm giving it to like 14-year-old teenage girls, and their acne is going away. So same thing with boys. So it became an all-purpose like supplement. And as a matter of fact, the next time I run the labels, I'm going to change the labels, because right now I kind of made it like, oh, it's only for men. Don't use it if you're a woman. But a lot of women use it. I think I probably had 50% women using this product. And we do have some direct stimulators of testosterone production in the formula as well. which will do nothing in women, obviously, because they don't produce testosterone from their testicles. But in men, it gives them a little boost. So we're blunting estrogen by binding the estrogen up and pulling it out of the body, using the diindole methane and indole 3-carbinol, which you can get in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. We block the DHT with a really high potency DHT blocker, like coming from saw palmetto, and then we directly stimulate some testosterone. So it's really probably the best. I think it's the best. Matter of fact, I have an 85-year-old guy who calls my office. He doesn't know how to use his phone or anything like that. He just calls from his home phone to the office, and he'll tell me, I had my testosterone checked. It was 450. I went on Testalize. It's 800 now. I'm like, and you're how old? He goes, 84. I said, way to go, man. So
there we go.
It works. Yeah.
Dave, listen, man, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I guess my last question is, obviously right now, like we're in like a economic crisis. Everyone's finances are a little bit tighter than normal. If you had to like pick out 3 top supplements for people to get from Species, what would they be and how come?
And I say this all the time. The 3 most important supplements, whether you use mine or someone else's, V-Mineralize, which is your vitamin, mineral, trace metal, antioxidant formula with real dosages of things. I mean, you have to take 5 pills twice a day of this product. It's a month's supply. It's the most important product that you'll take. Second most important, Omega-Lyze, which is all your essential fatty acids. You take 3 capsules of that twice a day. All these vitamins and essential fats should always be taken with food or shakes. And then your third product would be your FiberLyze for waste removal, detox, and all the great benefits of the fiber supplement. If you did those 3 only, because that's all you can afford, you would cover all your bases in terms of what you need to keep yourself healthy. Now, are there other things that you can add in addition? Of course there is, but those I would say are the 3 main products that everyone should use.
Yeah. And they like our lifestyle hasn't changed at all. Every single day, it's the V-Mineralize, the FiberLyze, the Omega-Lyze. We take the amino evolved for our essential amino acids during the middle of our workout. When I get home, right when I leave here, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to the kitchen. I'm grabbing my bottle of Protolize. I'm mixing 1.5 ounces of water in it. I mix it up. I put it in the fridge. I take it out, put some peanut butter on it. That is our 6:30 p.m. snack every single day.
Ryan, I'm not going to take credit for this, but I'm going to tell you what to do because other people have told me, and now I've taken it I'm going to do a video on it. I bought a Ninja Creamy, okay? It's an ice cream maker. You can buy it at Walmart.com. It's way cheaper than on Amazon. Get it from Walmart.com. I think they're $150. They're on sale now. And you put 2 scoops of I go out and buy unflavored coconut milk or unflavored almond milk. You put a cup of that in there. I put 2 scoops of the Protolize in there, which is going to give you 60 grams of protein. I go out and buy it's like a powdered monk fruit and erythritol combination. I put about 1/3 of a cup of that in there. I put a little vanilla extract in there, and I throw a whole egg in there, and I put it in the Ninja Creamy. It spins it for about 1.5 minutes. It comes out in a cup. You just put the top of the cup and you put it in the freezer, and the next day you have ice cream. And it's the greatest ice cream you've ever tasted. It's unbelievable. It's got virtually no carbs. It has 1 or 2 grams of carbs in it. It's got 60 grams of protein in it, and you'll lose your mind. That's how good it is. I'm telling you, it'll be your favorite thing you ever eat.
So I just sold right. So guys, real quick, last little tip here. Quick dieting hack. I had a girl come in here the other day asking for an appetite suppressant, right? She was eating too much at night. She needed to curb the appetite. So I said, listen, we can get you some Lifelines. This is a fat burner / appetite suppressant. I said, but honestly, I said, if you have a sweet tooth, like you're still gonna break that. I said, if you pair this up with the Protolize, I said, if you're looking for something that's gonna hold you over, so guys, the Protolize is a whey isolate / casein blend. Casein is another form of whey protein that is a slower acting, longer digesting protein. So this is going to hold you over. It's going to keep you satiated a little bit longer. It's going to curb your appetite. You pair it with your Lifelines. We're getting our protein. We're getting some fat burning effects. This is going to get you going in the right direction. Dave, seriously, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on here and helping me get this message out to everybody. Again, guys, if you are looking for Species products, we are the spot in the Enfield area, Enfield, Springfield, all the areas here. Stop by Destination Nutrition. We got his entire product line here. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Dave, thank you so much, man. Really, 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 truly appreciate everything you've done for us with Species, everything you've done with us for everything. Thank you so much.